Welcome to the Northeastern Minnesota Synod's first and maybe only Inside Scoop. I'm Deacon Brenda Tibbetts, Chair of the 2026 Bishop Election Committee, and today I am joined by the Northeastern Minnesota Synod Minister for Leadership Support and Bishop Election Committee Liaison to Synod staff, Deacon Susan Williams. Our guest interviewee is Bishop Amy Odgren, who will be completing her tenure as bishop in June and has announced that she will not be seeking re-election. Both Deacon Susan and I have experience with the call process and serving on Synod staff. The bishop election process is a call process of prayerful discernment by bishop nominees, Synod Assembly voting members, and you as members of the 120 plus congregations in the Northeastern Minnesota Synod. Deacon Susan and I have had front row seats to many aspects of the duties and responsibilities of a Synod bishop, which have given us a unique perspective for the questions we will be asking. Bishop Amy, we appreciate your willingness to take time to share your insights with us as we move closer to the April 24th through 26th Northeastern Minnesota Synod's Assembly Bishop election. And now, are you ready to share the inside scoop with us?
I sure am.
All right. Now, every bishop nominee has their aspirations or envisions what their leadership might look like for the Synod as a bishop. And sometimes that comes to fruition. Sometimes it doesn't happen because you run into reality and constitutions and those types of things. So I would ask you, what surprised you most in your role as bishop?
I think one of the things that really stands out for me is finding out how leaders across this synod and our congregations in particular have expected that the bishop has a whole lot more power than they really do. A bishop is there to assist in casting the vision for the synod, to be there to support our rostered leaders, and to also be there as support to our congregations. But really, when it comes to power, the power that a bishop has is the power over the roster itself. Otherwise, we're there as a support, a resourcer, an encourager, an equiper of the leaders across the synod. But sometimes folks think that I can just go in and make a rogue congregational member stop doing what they're doing, or that I can shift around a difficult situation. We're there to, be a positive influence and equiper of conflict resolution and so forth. But, we really are congregationally based, although we are the church together. So that's been a surprise to me. The other thing that I think I would mention is just the beautiful opportunity, and this maybe wasn't such a huge surprise, but the beautiful opportunity that a bishop has to meet with our companion synod folks and the opportunity to travel. I mean, I never dreamed that I was going to meet with our Russian companions. We met in Serbia 2 years ago, but I've also met with our Honduran companions on their setting, as well as during a consultation for the ELCA in Houston. And I've also had the opportunity to go to India. So that's been one of the wonderful benefits, and not necessarily a surprise, but just, that opportunity and great awe that I've been able to have.
Thank you. Are you ready for question number 2?
I am.
Where have you found joy in your ministry as our bishop?
Do you know, I think I've experienced joy certainly at milestones of congregations, when there's a celebration of an anniversary or, a significant milestone like that, but also in ordinations. And when there is a new leader for this church, and they've been called by a congregation that's maybe waited for a while to get a rostered minister, that's really joy-filled and such a celebration. And I'd say too that another thing that gives me joy is when congregations and leaders really step out and take a risk. Take a risk for the gospel, maybe trying something new, maybe a new outreach idea, maybe it's a new partnership and joining together with a neighboring congregation, so that they can support one another in the ministry that they share. So I would say when people really get a sense of God's presence with them to ensure that they can do something new, and God's there, even if it doesn't go so well, we always have something to learn from that. And so I think there's just such great joy when people try something and it's new.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What has been the biggest frustration in your role as bishop?
Maybe the opposite of that, when we don't take a risk for the gospel, when maybe we're a little bit bogged down in wanting to try this, do the same thing, because maybe we're not so certain that God is there to urge us on to try something new. And I would say too, that frustration has been there when we don't see how we are the church together. When we don't necessarily look at one another. It could be across the street, it could be across the synod, it could be across this whole church. That we don't really recognize that we're in ministry together, and that we have our unique settings and our contexts, and yet I think one of the things I've said is we're all on the same team, people. We're all on the same team. And so maybe the frustration grows when folks maybe have that, stick-to-itness to just keep doing the same thing. And we don't really recognize that, we all bring gifts in being together in ministry. We all bring gifts in our particular context that God has blessed us with, but we can certainly be stronger when we're together in ministry. So I guess that's a frustration when we don't see each other as the body of Christ.
Thank you.
Speaking of We Are Church Together, what things have you been asked to participate in on behalf of the ELCA Churchwide Organization?
Well, every bishop is, there is a committee within the Conference of Bishops that is the Committee on Committees. How do you like that? And it's a way to engage all of the 65 bishops in the ministry that we do share and that we do together. And so I've had the opportunity for the 6 years that I've been bishop to be on the roster committee. And that Committee on Committees will take people's passions and their particular areas of interest in mind, but you can sign up to be a part of many of the various committees. There's committee on theological education, ecumenical affairs, the Middle East Ready Bench, which that's another one that I've been a part of. That Ready Bench is kind of a funny term, but it really means that is a group of bishops who are called upon if there's a necessity to form some sort of a statement or make our church in general aware of a particular need that our friends in the Holy Land have. We have Lutheran partners there, and so that's been another action that I've been a part of, that Ready Bench. So there's multiple ways, and you're expected to participate, which is great because then you get to know a lot of the other bishops across this church and their leadership contexts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know you've been a part of some of our Region 3 ministries as well.
Mm-hmm.
Lutheran Advocacy.
Yes, and with that, the same expectations hold in this region as they do in other regions of our church. And that is that we share leadership opportunities. Some of the bishops serve on the committees and boards of certain Lutheran entities, like our seminaries, our universities and colleges. Lutheran Social Services is another one. And Acumen is another one that's right here in our Duluth area. But with those leadership opportunities, there also comes the responsibility of filling some of their boards and their committee structures with someone that I would recommend as a bishop. And so we do have those responsibilities as well. So, and that's all shared with the wonderful partners that we have with the ODAs. I always say that's Region 3, Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You came on during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a couple of questions for you about that. How did that bring changes and challenges in the way that we walk together as Synod?
Well, I think all of us can say we got a little better at technology. We hadn't, I don't think many of us knew the word Zoom like we know it now. And so it did change how we continued to connect with one another. However, we still connected. That was the point. We had to learn new ways to do that. We needed to learn new ways to worship. People looked to the Synod office and Synod staff for resourcing and ideas about what kinds of pieces of technology to use. We all were leaning on each other and learning those kinds of things. It really did change the way that we structure meetings and committee work in this Synod. We realized that a lot of folks are still using the hybrid kind of a method of gathering together, which it's still the gathered assembly, whether it is, online or online folks joining people that are in person. So even the terminology, I just laugh. I don't think we used in person and online as terms that we were so used to. But I just want to emphasize the connection never stopped. I mean, we're still the church together. All of us remember doing Synod assembly online, and we all needed each other to figure all of that out. How are we going to vote online? We figured it out. How do you even do a bishop election online? We figured that out. So I think there were a lot of new skills that were learned, and I think it moved us forward in many ways, because I know that congregations have mentioned how, they connected with people and continue to connect with people that might not darken the door of one of our congregations, but they feel like they're a part of the mission and ministry of some of our congregations, as they do with our Synod, because that connection is there in a new way. Now it's an old way.
Yeah, that's right.
And we continue.